After that nice little break, gave some time for all the knowledge people have been absorbing to sink in, but we're straight back into the knowledge and the big lessons ahead of us, as I am joined by both Emanuele and Daniele from the team over Adidas Runtastic, and they are here to talk to you about a scalable data platform that they created. Boys, take it away.
Great, thank you. Hello everyone, I hope you're awake enough for this presentation. I'm really happy to take part of the European Big Data Conference this year. And today what we will talk about is Zero to Hero, an advanced data platform to drive user engagement, a project marrying data science, analytics, and engineering to provide our stakeholders a tool to understand their customers. My name is Daniele. I'm working since more than 2 years at Adidas Runtastic, and I will present today with my colleague Emanuele, senior data engineer, also working there for almost 3 years, right? So let's go into the topic. But first, before I get into the topic itself, I would like just to give a quick introduction to what Runtastic is, because I know that you know what Adidas is, but what about Runtastic? As data people, we like to talk with numbers. So Runtastic for us is a mobile app fitness company founded in 2009 in Austria. Our two products are the one you see on the right. We have Adidas Running and Adidas Training in the back. We are part of Adidas since 2015, and we have been acquired, and now we are part of the group. In our history, we have more than 300 million downloads for both apps in both mobile app stores. And these huge amount of users are producing every day circa 0.5 terabyte of data in our databases, which are running through more than 200 ETL pipelines, which are running lately on Databricks, and are available at all stakeholders and data teams on average 2 minutes data velocity. What about the project we are presenting today? You can expect we will talk about these 6 steps. We'll start with the motivation, what brings us, our teams, to develop this new tool, this new model for our stakeholders. Then we'll introduce what is Zero to Hero. What does it mean, Zero to Hero? We will talk about the implementation. Here I will leave the stage to Emanuele, which just gets into the dive of what engineering is required for running this tool. Then I want to convince you of the solution and the importance of the model for our stakeholders, showing a real use case example and taking some key takeaways for the conclusions. So let's start. You're ready? We go for the motivation. As it happens for every successful project, the motivation needs to be found in the company strategy and vision. So let me explain what is our belief at Adidas. Through sport, we have the power to change lives. This is our purpose. We live every day. It's expanding the limits of human possibilities. We want to include and unite people in sport, creating a more sustainable world. And in the background, you see a picture taken from Run for the Ocean, the biggest sustainability challenge in the world. Almost 7 million participants just ended this summer. That's actually the biggest initiative that we have at Runtastic. And every year we continue reproposing that to all the people in the world, uniting them in the same mission of cleaning the plastic from the ocean. But as I believe words are not enough to describe the vibe of such an initiative, let me just show you a video and see what this actually means.
There's nothing like the urge of competition. It's in all of us, and we're born to chase it. It's why we fly the flags, sing the chants, and why we never back down. But right now, we've got a bigger opponent, and it's threatening our planet. It's us versus plastic waste. So let's use that will to win, that competitive spirit, and take real action. Because for every kilometer you run, Adidas and Parley will clean up the equivalent of 10 plastic bottles. So lace up and help end plastic waste. Let's run for the oceans together.
Okay, I ask you for another check. Can you see the slide?
Yes, I can see the slides.
Okay.
They're showing. It's fantastic.
So, hello everyone. Sorry very much for the inconvenience. I'm Emanuele, and I would like to talk to you about the data architecture. This actually is very general talk, so we can do this even without the introduction from Daniele, because it's the base for all of our data product. So let me jump in and let's start. So we work mainly from two sources of data. Data from the IDaaS backend and data from Adjust. Adjust is a service we use for app usage analytics. The IDaaS, the data coming from the IDaaS backend are all those data that backend is processing, and the messages that their microservice architectures is exchanging. In those data, we find, for example, the sport activities that the user do. We find the user interaction, the user updates, and so on. Then we have the adjust data. These are data that are tracked, collected, and sent from the app directly. And these are data for tracking the usage of the app. So, for example, here we find the amount of click the user perform, the time spent from the user on each of the screen of our app, and so on. So this data from these two sources then are ingested in our data platform that is on the cloud, and that it's powered by Microsoft Azure and Databricks. The entry point is Azure Event Hub. Azure Event Hub is a service on Azure for high throughput message ingestion. And from here, more than 200 pipeline bring the messages in the three layers: bronze, silver, and gold. Who of you is working with Databricks or with Data Lake in general is surely familiar with this kind of division. In bronze layer, we have the data at their rawest state. We perform some validation of the message against the expected schema, and we remove the personal information because of GDPR reason. On silver layer, instead, we have some data cleaning. We perform, for example, data type transformation, column renaming, etc. Gold layer, instead, the data are structured and joined together to answer the business needs. Data from silver and gold are used in several data products we have. So Daniele will maybe is going to explain to us that we need a data product that is called Zero to Hero. Daniele, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I don't know what really happened. When was it? What was got cut off?
After the video,
actually.
After the video.
Okay. So sorry, what was it happened? I basically kept presenting everything without having an audience. Very nice. But okay, let's continue on this, and then I will reprise from when I was interrupted.
Yeah, okay. I will finish this slide, okay, because then it's connected with the discussion of the model.
Amazing.
So I will bring back the slides for you, okay? So,
great.
As I explained, silver and gold data are used for several internal applications. We want to build a model that help us and help the business user know which features basically are the most important for retaining our user. And for this, like several data products, we need to extract information out of the data that we have on silver and gold. We need to extract the features and the labels. And for this, we gathered together product managers and data scientists, and we defined more than 500 user features to extract. We divide those in three categories: Biographical information, for example, age, gender, country, are just information, just interaction that are features coming from a just tracking data. So, for example, the number of app openings, number of click on blog articles, the blog articles that are read, that have been read, and so on. And then we have sport activity interactions that are indeed the feature coming from sport activity data, like number of sport activities performed, number of kilocalorie burned, etc. Some of these features are extracted in respect to a given time range. For example, whenever we extract the number of sport activities, we do this, for example, in the interval of 1 month. We do not just extract the number of sport activity for the entire month, but we split the time interval into sub-intervals so that we also have the number of sport activities performed during the first week, the second week, and so on. After extracting the features, we then extract the label. We have a label called engagement level that Daniele will explain better, but it's basically a label defining if the user is engaged or not. Then we have the churn flag, indicating if a user will open the app next month. And then we have the premium flag, that is basically if the user has our premium subscription or not. Before continuing, then I will hand over back to Daniele, that will continue from the slide after the video.
Amazing. Great. So we actually revised what is the agenda for today. We start from the implementation, then we get to the strategy. Amazing. But okay, so you got a grasp. Imagine that we understood what is for Adidas the vision, the empowering and connecting 1 billion athletes. This is what instead sports apps want. And the role of Runtastic in here, it's key because simply you don't change life buying shoes, you think of it. You change life instead based on what you do with the shoes you buy. You can think of doing sport. You can use the running and training app. You can do it for a cause, saving a plastic for the ocean. Or you can do sport tracking with our apps, monitoring and creating a fitness journey and be motivated and ultimately be happy. If you think of that, therefore, Runtastic is the connection between the digital and physical world. But there is also one specific topic here, which we have to analyze, the engagement. We want to engage 1 billion athletes, but what does engagement mean for us? Engagement is sport, or our users, our athletes, as they start doing sport. But we need to strive for engagement, as the engagement doesn't mean that you choose sport once, but you need to keep doing sport. You need to be active, set a fitness journey and motivate yourself. At Runtastic, we care so much of this topic that actually we have a metric to measure that. And you can go in the next slide. Engagement at Runtastic is so key that is actually our goal. We use it to measure the success for achieving the vision at Adidas. You can think it of a function of 3 sub-KPIs, which I'm going to explain you through the RFM model. The recency, frequency, and monetary KPIs, being first, the freshness of user sport activities, the KPI of number of days since last sport activities was done. The frequency being the number of sport activities that users are doing in a specific month, and the monetary being a proxy for fitness performance, the effort of the users doing sport. And we measured it as total kilocalories burned. Now, given of that, we are able to segment our user base into 3 categories in the next slide. And these are the engagement categories. We can have up to 3, the engaged, not engaged, and new users. The first, the engaged users being our North Stars, the model for every other user. You can imagine them being the ones doing sports regularly, burning a lot of calories. And they excel at least in one of the dimensions between RFM. Not engaged are the ones that are still using the app but lack commitment. They haven't yet developed a good routine and they are not tracking a lot of activities. But finally, we have new users, which needs to be considered separately. They are first-time registered users. These are fresh strata of our users, which we would really like in the next month to bring engaged. These are potential engaged users, but also potential not engaged. Keeping engagement, it's not that easy. And I want to show you an example of what happened in 2021 to show you how actually Runtastic tracked and explained what was going on in this year. It was very challenging. You can see that whereas in the first quarter, we were able to over-exceed expectation. In the second quarter on, we were highly underperforming. And if you see in the next click, you have a positive vibe at first and a negative with respect to the goal. And this concluded into an overall negative trend for the end of the year. And I remember that period. We knew that it was for external factors. For sure, there was COVID outbreak that was helping us to get more users at the beginning, and then the restriction release in which users prefer to, just go into the restaurants more than going for a run. But before, we were having a lot of stakeholders that were very well delivering on their features. We were releasing lots of interesting features in our app, social features, new content, but we were still not expecting so much drop. And here was the point in which we were unable to provide tangible explanation of what was going on. Engagement was a mystery, and therefore we got lots of questions from our stakeholders, and we needed to do something more. We needed something to give a specific answer to all these users, all these stakeholders. And we thought about Zero to Hero. That's where Zero to Hero actually starts. Zero to Hero is the platform to bring new users, the zeros, into engaged users, the heroes. And with this tool, we want to solve a specific problem, which is that new users, so the third segment, are stopping to do sport very quickly after sign up, and their engagement is very low. And for doing this, we need to analyze a specific framework, which you see here in this slide, which analyzes specific users registered and then what they're doing in the first 14 days after registration, and measuring the engagement of these users in the 31st to 60 days after the registration. So again, 3 moments. They have the start and date, which is the user selection window. Between start and end date, we gather all the users registered between this period of at least 1 month. We analyze 2 weeks after this period, in which they analyze the features, interactions, but also the biographical information, the gender, how old they are, the weight, height, everything related to the user, which relates to the biographical information and their usage with the app. We are able to understand from these 2 weeks, 2 onboarding weeks, what is their intent. And then in the next 31st to 60 days, you have the engagement measurement, engagement month window. And here you measure who of these users got engaged. Based on that framework, we are able to convey our tool, Zero to Hero. And the tool in the next slide works that having Databricks, Delta Lake, and Azure bringing as input 2 things, user variables and user features. User variables being the ones that helps us to select which specific features are, which specific users needs to be considered, start and date, dates from registration, and the app branch being the specific app between running and training. And then the user features, which are the interaction done in the first 2 weeks. Based on that, we got to have 2 outputs. One on top in the next, the interaction impact, the features impact. What is the impact of a single feature being done by the users in the first 2 weeks in terms of engagement? And on the bottom, you have a step further. You have user journey impact. a chain of features that, if done at the same time, at the same way, from the same user in these 2 weeks, are bringing a huge opportunity to bring these users to engage in the next month. And we do that analyzing the correlation. Keep in mind this word correlation between what happens in the first and second week after registration and the second month. But to explain how to get to input to output, we need to get into the deep dive of Zero to Hero. So Emanuele already showed you what is the specific implementation. I hand over to you to explain what is going on afterwards.
Thanks, Daniele. Can you hear me? I am double checking now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Perfect. Okay, then Daniele, your part was key. We now understood what we want to build and why. And I already show you our data and the ETL process we have, and also the information we extract. So as Daniele showed you, for this model, we need both user features and label extraction. However, extracting this information is not easy. We have several modules that are interconnected and dependent on each other. That's why we also use Azure Data Factory, that is a service on Azure for data integration and job orchestration. And the one you see on the right is part of our pipeline for feature extraction. You don't need to understand it, but you can grasp immediately that there are different modules, and some of the modules run one after each other, so run sequentially, and some instead have to run in parallel. So you can grasp a bit of the complexity that stays behind extracting this information. Moving forward, we have this pipeline takes in input 3 parameters: start date, end date, and days from registrations. And these are the parameters that help us defining the time interval on which we need to extract the feature and the label for the user. We use also these input parameters to partition the destination table. Indeed, all the features and all the labels are then stored in the data lake in one single table, partitioned by the time interval we selected. Then our pipeline is meant to be easily extendable. As you see, there are different modules, but we designed this on purpose because like this, we can easily extend it. And in the future, for example, if we want to add more user feature to extract, we could just append a block at the end of the pipeline, for example. Or in this case, if we want to replace the engagement label extraction with the premium label extraction, we can do this just replacing that block with another one, and everything will run as expected. Now, after we have the user features and the label, we can put them in relation for then having several data products. What we want to achieve in the model for the model Zero to Hero is to put in relation the user feature that we extracted with the engagement label, and then providing to the business user engagement insight notebook using Databricks for it. So maybe visualizing some charts, seeing how impactful is a feature for the retention. However, we have several data products that we can build starting from the same feature. We have, for example, a machine learning model to predict the engagement of the user, a machine learning model to predict if the user will buy a premium subscription, or we can use the same data and connect those to our CRM tools to better target our user. In the next slide, I will show you which notebook we have for our business user. And we have 2 notebooks for them. These are Databricks notebook. And the idea is that the business user can run the notebook individually, and they can also edit the notebook, adding, for example, a new chart, or just tuning a bit the parameter. We have the first notebook that is feature impact, that computes the impact of each feature on the user engagement. And this takes 3 parameters, start month and month, that define the time interval, and app branch, that is optional, that target either the running app or the training app or both. The second notebook is instead user journey impact. And this notebook doesn't stop in computing the impact on a single feature on the user engagement, but aims to compute the impact of a chain of feature that we call journey on the engagement. So additionally to the parameter that we have seen above, so start month and app branch, we also have the feature name, so the chain of features the user has to follow to build this journey, and enable auto split. That is a Boolean that if enabled, the algorithm will choose for you the best feature value for the feature that you have selected. For example, kilometer running on the second week greater than 10. But if disabled, the business user is free to specify those values manually. And now back to Daniele, that will explain and will show you in detail the output of those 2 notebooks. Thanks.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Emanuele, for the solution and the implementation insights. So now what you should know is what is the problem we want to solve, how we solve it, and the technical implementation. Now, what I want to do now, before getting to the conclusion, is to convince you of the value of the project. That is a real value that helped us in our team to modify a CRM journey for our onboarding and improving engagement for our new users. And I want to bring an example from our CRM team, that how we show that week 2 after registration, it's key for getting users to engagement. So I'm presenting you an example here of a run of the first notebook, of the first output type we have, the feature impact in the running app. We run it with our notebook on Databricks between April and July 2021. And this you see is the result we were able to obtain. So this is a bar chart that shows for every single feature, what is the impact that it will have on engagement. Based on a specific split, you can read sum of kilometers strolling in the second week higher than 2 and 59 kilometers. Well, if you can read it in our next click, please, you can see that this means that the engagement rate amongst users walking more than 2.59 kilometers, this is in the first 2 weeks, is 38.3 percentage point higher than other users. This is what would be the impact, which is huge impact. Think of that. Also think what happens in the other situation. In the top, you see a very recurrent feature, which is the second week features. Some of strolling, some kilometers of running, cycling. Also a bit lower, you see the number of followers and follow you're adding in the second week. This means that the second week was very key on identifying users that were brought to engagement. But now it comes another top. Our next step is bringing these features to user journey. And here I want to explain what is the user journey concept. We, as Emanuele was also saying before, we don't have only single features here, but we have a chain of features. Chain of features that if done by the same users within these 2 weeks of onboarding, they could provide a lot of engagement. And for instance, here what we get is from the most important features, 3 features: kilometers in the first 2 weeks, overview page, and in the first week. This in our journey that starts with the setting the goal in a specific overview page on the app, then running, so achieving the goal in the first week and achieving again the goal in the second week, or at least trying to achieve the goal, is what brings users to engage in the next month. And we have a specific notebook to analyze how much the impactful is quantified. I want to show you in the next slide. In here, you see different possible journeys involving the three features we were analyzing before. You have in the first box the opportunity of increasing your engagement by setting a goal in the overview page, which is 31.3 percentage point higher than other users. Meaning just setting a goal could have a great impact on your engagement. But if you analyze a two-step engagement journey, then you see that, for instance, in the third bar, you have the engagement of tracking an activity in the second week of at least 1.3 kilometers would be 12.9 percentage point, even higher than just users were setting over goals in an overview page. And if you on top complete the entire journey with the 3 steps, you have on top 6.3 percentage point, which is bringing a total, if you make the math, of 50% percentage point increase with respect to other users, which is huge impact. If you think of that, if we would be able to bring these new users to exactly do this journey, we will expect this kind of engagement rate. And this is something that works for this specific journey, but our tool, what is cool about our tool, is that we are able to bring automatically multiple subsets of features that together in a journey work very well and would increase the engagement rate of our users a lot. And the idea is that these tools are providing how these journeys correlate with engagement rate in the second month to provide a better view to our stakeholders in product and CRM what is working the best. Now, I wanted to talk also one thing before getting to the conclusion, which I anticipated, if you remember, which is the problem about correlation and causation. What we saw is just correlation. And correlation is a bit what you see in these pictures as well. You observe pattern and you make hypotheses. But patterns and hypotheses can not always lead to the right conclusion. I wouldn't say that the pigeon here, after some time, is making the bench to get lower. I think we need something else here. We need causation. How do we achieve causation? Well, here the thing is, you start from correlation, you see what could be interesting to analyze and test, and then you test, you experiment. Here comes the causation. You bring your teams to set an experiment, possible an A/B test experiment, to prove that what you see correlated is also proving causation, with an experiment of users seeing specific features and users not seeing these features. And that's exactly what we did with our CRM teams. We first looked at notebooks, we drafted an idea of journey, we saw the impact of the journey was huge, and then we created 3 messages to get these 3 steps of features on the same place and getting users to be aware of the journey they should have done. And then we measured how was the impact on these users doing the journey and the ones who didn't receive these messages for being invited to the journey. And the impact was actually a lot. So we were able, for this specific example, to prove that in that specific journey, causation was converted from correlation. So we are at the conclusions almost. What I want to do here is having a recap of what we've seen. We saw things in a different order than expected, but if it would be as expected, the presentation would have started seeing that keeping engagement for new users is very hard. And it's even harder to understand what motivates them to do sport. For that, we needed to explain what means engagement. We created Zero to Hero. And this platform is running automatically on Databricks in Asia to bringing and keep bringing a data-driven decision-making to our stakeholders. And this is nowadays used by multiple teams, the data team, the CRM, the product teams, to understand better what to prioritize next to the next feature in our apps. So that was it for us. Thanks a lot for your attention. Here you have a grasp of LinkedIn to stay connected. We really appreciate your questions now. And thanks a lot again.
Fantastic. Thank you for the informative slides. Apologies for the tech issues. I'm glad we were able to resolve it in the end. So we'll move to the Q&A element. If anyone's got any questions, throw them in now. Obviously, we're a little bit of time constraints, so we'll have to zoom through the best we can. I'm noticing a few coming through, though. Wojciech seems to be asking question regarding Event Hub part. Oh, sorry, just give me a second. I have to rephrase that a little. It's to do with saving the Avro file in Event Hub. Did you ever need to have stream retention higher than 7 days in terms of disaster recovery?
Yes. So thanks for the question. If I understood correctly, you are talking about the retention event updated by default is 7 days, and what happened in case of disaster recovery. That's a very good question, and so what you can do is, and what we have in place is a feature from Event Hub directly that is called the Event Hub Capture, so that basically even every message is stored automatically in a data lake, in the data lake. So everything is persisted. In any case, you have those 7 days to recover the message from the Event Hub buffer itself, as you mentioned.
Okay. Another one came in from Mirko. Did you build all of your data pipelines in Azure Data Factory? If so, have you considered being vendor independent, i.e. have you built some sort of library or framework that sits in front of the Azure Data Factory?
Okay, so this also is a very good question, and the answer for this is no. We do not have everything on Azure Data Factory. So we started our journey basically migrating the data that we had on premise to the cloud, and we started our journey with Databricks. And as you probably know, Databricks has already some sort of job orchestration on its own. So we started with this, and most of our ETL pipelines are still there. However, when it comes to have this sort of complexity that we have, then we have several data products that instead the pipeline for those run in Data Factory. So if your question is if we can be a bit vendor independent, yes, we are sort of being independent from Azure if we think that our orchestration can run on Databricks alone. However, this moment, Data Factory is crucial for us when it comes to complex pipeline.
Okay. And so a question from Akash, kind of leading into that data. Where exactly is the data being stored for non-EU countries? And how are you applying GDPR for data coming from non-EU countries?
Yeah, so basically GDPR is a European regulation. So everything applies to European citizenship, to citizen. And so our data are at the moment stored in some data center in Europe, and they are replicated in another data center in Europe. If you can repeat the question again. So how did this apply? So I remember the question. The GDPR, so as I said, is relevant for European citizen only. However, every user, no matter where is in, can ask for his data. So from our app, he can ask from the data, and we will give back all the relevant information for the user that are stored on both the backend side, so database backend, and what we have on the data lake instead. For example, the data coming from Adjust, the backend databases have now those data. We are the only owner, and we always store those data. So we also give back that the Adjust data, for example, to the user.
Okay, that's good.
Just add also something happening on the anonymization side. So all the data are hardly anonymized, so we don't know any personal information of our users, and this is regardless of where they're coming from, such that on our level, we cannot get precise data, but only customer service could potentially access it. So this is what how we get the GDPR also in place. So that.
All right, fantastic. Right, I think what we'll do is we'll round out now. I believe there were a few other questions, but if people want to get in contact with you, I think you had your details up on the screen. I'm sure you'll be hanging around the chat, and you're more than willing to take any DMs that come your way, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
Sure.
Fantastic. Well, boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for a really informative presentation. I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to move on the show, but thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. See you.
Okay, guys. Well, apologies. I noticed that there were a lot of questions coming in this one, so be sure to reach out to them. Be relentless in your pursuit of knowledge, and I'm going to allow you to continue to be relentless. In just a minute, we're going to be up with our next talk, so stay tuned. After a short break, we will return.